He said that we asked India to give us proof that and that Pakistan will work as per the proof that India gives us if it indeed feels that Pakistan is somehow directly or indirectly implicated, but no proof was ever given by the India. But after the elections in India, Imran Khan Sahab said that we saw all the efforts that were made by India to bankrupt Pakistan on different fora, and that includes the FATF and other fora as well. And that is when Imran Khan Sahab said we decided that talks were not the way to go forward. He said the Kashmir annexation happened, abrogation of Article 370 happened, India went against the United Nations. He said India went against the Constitution of India, went against the decisions made by the Indian Supreme Court and the High Courts, went against their Indian founding fathers such as Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru. He said that India ended secularization in its country since the 5th of August this year. Then he talked about the ideology of the RSS and the BJP. He said the RSS has been formed since 1925, but the BJP, of course, was formed a bit later. But he said that Narendra Modi is a lifetime member of the RSS, and this is the ideology that he is moving forward with. He said we should understand why all this is happening. He said the consistent policy in India has been the same ideology as that of the RSS, that India is for Hindus only. And of course, the feeling that has been propagated through the RSS ideology is that it is time for the Hindu Raj and to write against the Muslims and time to teach a lesson to the Muslims. He said the Hitler and Mussolini have been the ideals of the RSS. He also said that Mahatma Gandhi was killed as a result of this ideology, that is the ideology of the RSS. He said Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and other leaders saw this ideology, and that is why they worked for the Pakistan movement, and because they wanted a separate homeland for the Muslims of the subcontinent. He said we saw what happened in Babri Mosque, we saw what happened in Gujarat, the violence on the people that happened. This is the ideology that is governing India. He said that our ideology in Pakistan is based on Sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ and Medina's Riyasat. He talked about Misaq-e-Medina. He said how that was signed by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he talked about Hazrat Ali in his time. He lost a case against a minority, and he said this we don't see nowadays. He's talked about how important those messages were that were propagated during the times of Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ and Hazrat Ali. He said that Modi has made a historical blunder, violence on Kashmiris. He said that what they wanted to do is that then say to the world that the so-called Islamic terrorists are going to enter or have entered into occupied Kashmir from Azad Kashmir, and that is why they were to launch a false flag operation on Azad Kashmir. He said we have been successful in Pakistan on two important fronts. We have internationalized the issue, that is, and all the human rights organizations, the media, the international media, has been now talking about the Kashmir issue as it has never had in the past. And also we have thwarted attempts for the false flag operation that was to be done by them in Azad Kashmir. He also said that the Pakistan army is ready for any eventuality. He said he thanked then the Pakistani media for highlighting the Kashmir issue and to make people understand this RSS ideology. Then he talked about what needs to be done. He said that the country, that is our country, Pakistan, needs to be united with the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. He said that he himself will become an ambassador, as he has become one, for the Indian occupied Kashmir, to tell the world leaders, to apprise them on the atrocities that have been happening in Indian occupied Kashmir. And he said that India is working on an ideology that is detrimental to the world. He said he will address the United Nations on the 27th of September. He said no need to be sad. He then talked about the reaction that was, of course, emanating from the other countries in the Muslim world. He said no need to be sad if the Muslim world is not currently not talking as much about the Indian occupied Kashmir as they should, but he said they will join in our efforts in due time. He talked about Bosnia-Herzegovina and what happened in Bosnia as an example in the past. He said it took time for the Muslim world to react to that, but they did react in time, and he said this is what is going to happen in the case of Indian occupied Kashmir. He said that we in Pakistan will take this up in all the different fora for the 8 million Kashmiris who are oppressed in Indian occupied Kashmir. He said never in the past has India been criticized in this manner. He said the media and Pakistan will wait to see what happens when the curfew is eventually lifted in Indian occupied Kashmir. And he said every week, then he of course ended by saying that every week we need to hold an event to tell to the whole world and to the people of Indian occupied Kashmir that we stand with them. He said this coming Friday between 12 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. we should all, whether we are in schools, in colleges or in offices, we should all come out and stand with the people. And the people in Indian occupied Kashmir, they need our support. They look forward to us. And we need to tell them that we will stand by them till the resolution of their issues. He also said that we need to tell the world that what is happening to Kashmir and to the people in Indian occupied Kashmir. And he said, inshallah, time will tell that this time Kashmiris will get their right for the plebiscite, for the right to self-determination that they have been fighting about. And they said that this is the time, this is the movement that will begin and will end with them getting their independence. He said there's a huge responsibility also. This was very important. He said there's a huge responsibility that comes on the United Nations, because there was there are resolutions there about plebiscite of the people in Indian occupied Kashmir, something that has never happened. He's asked, will the United Nations help the suppressed people? Will the United Nations understand the plight and really work on what has happened? He said 1.25 billion Muslims around the world look towards you. And he was addressing, of course, the United Nations. He said, will the big countries in the world only look at their markets? And then he, of course, ended by saying that if this situation goes to war, then the implications will be disastrous for everybody. And he said that we will go till our last breath to work for the rights of the Kashmiris. That was Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Imran Khan. He was addressing the people of Pakistan and, of course, also the Muslims around the world and the United Nations, because that was the message that he said, a message that was concentrated on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. That was the entire address. I mean, I tried to summarize or tell you all the important details that our Prime Minister said. It was a very important address, and this was an address of solidarity of Pakistan with the people of Indian occupied Kashmir, that Pakistan stands by them, and Pakistan will now not rest until the people in Indian occupied Kashmir get their due right for self-determination, the rights that they have been diligently working towards as per the United Nations resolutions. Is the right that needs to be given to them, and of course Pakistan will work till its last breath. He and his government will work till their last breath to work in that address. Now we've been joined by our guest. Let's kind of move forward and see on the implication of this address nationally, internationally, on India, on the United Nations, on the big bodies. Of course, the G7 summit is happening in Biarritz as we speak. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. You, of course, listened to the address by our Prime Minister. You've seen what has been happening. The G7 summit is happening in Biarritz. Trump addressed the media along with Narendra Modi, and other important details have been happening as well. There were British parliamentarians that also addressed media along with the Speaker of National Assembly, Asad Kaisar. How do you oversee all these different events that are happening now at a very rapid pace internationally to apprise the entire world about the plight of the people in Indian occupied Kashmir? Is it all going in the right direction?
Yeah, thank you very much, Omer. I think the one sentence what I would like to say after what have you narrated in the Prime Minister's speech and the subsequent events occurring around the world to highlight the plight of Kashmiris is that we have managed to internationalize the Kashmir issue and comprehensively. It has been happening. Governments have been trying. This current government has gone actually to extra mileage to ensure that since the rights of the people, and it has never been for Pakistan about a territorial issue. It has always been the rights of the people. The right which was given to them by the United Nations, the right which India agreed with Kashmiris and the Pakistanis in the presence of the international community. And after, of course, the abrogation of 370 and 35A, India orchestrated a remarkable, I would say, there has a lot been said about Holocaust and pressures which they have built, and around 800,000, 900,000 forces, all kind of forces, paramilitary, militaries, their special forces, intelligence operatives, all kind of good combination, as we say in the military, that they have it, to actually detain and take hostage all the 8 to 9 million Kashmiris. I would say that the Prime Minister's speech, which I heard just and you summed up, it has two important caveats for the international community, also for the United Nations. For the United Nations, it is their last chance to show their credibility, and that has been said before. But this, for the past 22nd, third day almost now, from 5th of August onward. And the second caveat is relating to how Pakistan looks at the conflict. If India considers that they can take a presidential order and take away the rights of Kashmiris and bypass all international law, is greatly mistaken.
But what is very interesting to note is during the address of Imran Khan Sahab also, he said that they have gone against their own constitution, against the own decisions that have been taken by the Supreme and the High Courts in India.
So that's what the second issue is here. Now let's move to the how we should actually diplomatically, as we have been doing a remarkable job. I would say under the circumstances, I heard a lot of criticism on different quarters, and I really wonder that if they really understand that it has been ages that the New York Times or Washington Post would go on and censor India.
Exactly.
And censor not once. Entire international media has been literally not only criticizing, bashing Indian way and methods. And the comparison was drawn between Holocaust. I personally think it is it's a warning to the world. All humanitarian crises always end up in a big confrontation on the basis of, because when you express this large number of entire population, entire size of their whole state, you do not expect that people will not react to that.
True.
And that reaction will come from there. Pakistan will respond. Pakistan has not reacted. And that is, I would say, is the third caveat from Pakistan's side.
Speaking of the reaction, sir, I mean, the false flag operation that has been highlighted time and again in this address by the Prime Minister, by our Foreign Minister in the past as well. I mean, to divert the attention, I mean, how low can you get that in order to divert what the atrocities you're committing in Indian occupied Kashmir, you are going to have a false flag operation in Azad Kashmir, and to say that the so-called Islamic terrorists were entering Indian occupied Kashmir, and that is why they had a false flag operation. I mean, how low can you get?
I mean, this is a false flag operation. Pakistan preempted it in a very right manner. Those who know the security of Afghanistan and those who know the security, what India has obtained, the details, the state of the art, their fences, the thermal and all kind of, I would say, barricades they have, it's impossible any creature to cross into. The second thing is trying to cover up their own international war crimes with this kind of thing, I think the world will not buy this, first of all, because it doesn't make any sense. That right when this has been going on forever. I have never heard or read any single news which says that the people crossed from that. There was allegation, counter-allegation, which were proven wrong from, by our side all the time. We told them that you're wrong and give us a proof, and they failed to do it. This means that they actually have gone so confused that they have no idea what they have done.
But I think, sir, I would kind of interrupt you there. I think they know exactly what they want. They're pursuing the RSS philosophy.
I know they're following RSS. I'm saying that the post their actions,
all right,
they are not understanding what they're trying to do. What they were trying to do is they are going to create a very big problems for all their supporters in the region, in the Middle East, because in the end, when they carry out any false flag operation, which the Pakistan government has informed the world, and we already had problems in February. You see, the attitude of Indians were quite different on 25th, 6th February. On 27th February, their behavior was changed. The reason was they made a blunder and they were responded in coins, and their intentions were destroyed. Now, if I look at the tactical level, if they cannot forever keep those Kashmiris there. The day they take the lid off and that they allow them to normally function in their own homes, in their own society, I can assure you that things will be quite different for Indians. And that day India and the powers, those who are supporting them, will remember that they will go down as the dark pages in the history of these 20
sir,
days or so.
But with all due respect, the number of troops that now are present in Indian occupied Kashmir, I mean, you multiply by that by the number of people that are there. There's, I think, 1 troop or 3 or 4 people.
Yes, they are unarmed. They are innocent children. The patients are there, the medicine is not there.
There's no access to medicine, food, everything is closed.
So that's why I think it is very important for the Prime Minister that he is going there to speak at the General Assembly on 27th September. And prior to this one, every week creating this kind of events, it means that not only that the Pakistan or anybody should forget Kashmiri, those who are taken hostage by Indian RSS and BJP ideology, but at the same time, Pakistan has another angle on this, and which others would realize. It's very rightfully said. First of all, on the cases of Muslim states we were referring to, I have a very different take on that, to be honest. My intake is that we should not really expect any country, forget about all these countries, that they should negotiate their national or other interests on, yes, they have a moral support they provide us. I think UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all other countries in the past have been very supportive to Pakistan. They are supporting in our economics and other things. The issue here is that they will not choose sides, but at times, time will come. It's right for the Prime Minister to say that these countries would also come in line. And I closely observed, by the way, the Bosnian crisis.
Exactly, this is what he cited.
The first country which came in fold was United States of America. That we have to understand. On their side as well, all the other nations came through very late. The Europeans were there because it was close in Europe. I think in this case, Pakistan, of course, has a legitimate, this is a stakeholder. And secondly, international law is violated. United Nations is another stakeholder. US, Britain, and others are the stakeholders. Whether they move fast or slow, that will not change the reality on the ground. So they will fall in place. And we have seen voices coming even from the G7, that the Prime Minister Macron also, he came that he is very concerned and careful, because we should not go about the wording, what we are looking for. Showing concern on the people of Kashmir is exactly mean that their rights they have been subjugated and their rights are being seized by the Indian state.
True.
Because the interpretation doesn't mean that France would go and say that we don't want Indians are human rights violators. We will say that. There are so many international organizations, Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, and I have met during this trip in the Western Europe and Scandinavia, we met countless of people, and the member parliaments and those who really are worried about this. The only issue is that their united stance will come. Their united stance will come in favor of Kashmiri people when and if India takes the lead off, because they want to understand the gravity of the situation. The situation is very grave. I personally say that it is also the responsibility of the UNMOIC and others, and there should be an independent fact-finding mission, be it drawn from the old judiciary, the judiciary in India, the former justices. They have also came out. Look at what they have done to the Rahul, this Congress leader was stopped.
Yes, he wasn't allowed to.
He was prevented in enter, in Srinagar. So all these things indicate that one government in a huge country with this ideology, the ruthless ideology of RSS, are carrying it on their shoulders, and I'm sure the situation will change. So what should we do? We should not let it go.
Exactly.
This is the time. This is the time for us to show
solidarity with the people of Indian occupied
Kashmir. And if someone,
Kashmir.
just last point, if someone says that what Pakistan has achieved, well, Pakistan has achieved one important factor, that is to continuously internationalizing the issue, and you hear this now every capital. Look what India is doing.
Exactly, that is what also Imran Khan Saab said in his address to the nation. We've been joined by Ahmed Qureshi, who's a journalist and an anchor person as well. Ahmed, thank you very much to have joined us. Ahmed, how important is this speech of Imran Khan Saab in the current context in Indian occupied Kashmir?
This speech, Omer, of Prime Minister Imran Khan is a timely speech of strength. It shows a very confident, gives a very confident message from Pakistan to the world and also to the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Basically, the Prime Minister is telling the Pakistani nation and also the Kashmiri nation that the world has finally spoken on Kashmir, that the moment for a final resolution in Kashmir to end this conflict has come, and Pakistan is seizing this moment. Pakistan will not let this moment go away. The leaders of India, wherever they go in the world today, and we've seen that happen with the Indian Prime Minister, they are facing questions on Kashmir. Just recently, yesterday, the Indian Prime Minister was at the G7 summit. He had faced questions on Kashmir from every major big power present there. They are facing these questions everywhere. India is isolated on its narrative on Kashmir in the international media. They used to say before this is an internal matter. Now, Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is forced, because of this international pressure, to tell President Trump, as he did in France at the sidelines of the G7 summit, that this is a bilateral issue. India is trying its very best to push back on this international pressure.
So Pakistan is seizing. Ahmed, is it? It's not a bilateral issue, is it?
100%. It's not. It's. I think we are beyond that point. We should not even discuss it. It's over. And Prime Minister Imran Khan, in his speech today, has seized on this moment, and he's telling the Pakistani nation, he's telling the Kashmiri nation, and he's also giving a message to the world. This is the time to resolve this dispute permanently. Of course, through political means. Pakistan is calling to do that in a peaceful way, although Pakistan is ready to face if India goes for any misadventure. Pakistan is ready for that, but at the same time, Pakistan is telling the world clearly, this is the moment, let's come together, let's seize this moment. And I think it's a great message that the Prime Minister has given. First of all, he turned the tables on India when he compared what India is doing to fascism and Nazism, and that message resonated worldwide because it really captured the imagination of the global media, and we've seen how the global media covered all of that. And later on, now he comes, Prime Minister Imran Khan, and you have to really admire how he handles this, the way he handled the situation 5 months ago after Balakot, when he came out, as you remember, his 2 or 3 televised speeches. He really captured even the hearts and minds of the Indian public opinion, and of course the global public opinion with his decision to release the captured Indian pilot. So Prime Minister Imran Khan really has that ability, and now he's seizing the moment. He's telling the world, I'm the ambassador for Kashmir, and he's telling the world, this is the time to resolve it.
All right, one more important thing, I mean, amongst the other important things that our Prime Minister talked about during his address was, of course, directing things at the United Nations. First, of course, he said that after 1965, this is the first time that the United Nations Security Council has had a session on the situation in Kashmir, but he also put a lot of responsibility on and rightly so, on the United Nations, because there are resolutions that are pending in that world body that have not been addressed to in the proper manner. How is this going to affect what has been said by the Prime Minister today on, of course, how is that going to resonate on the world body as well?
Omer, you have just put your finger on a very important part of international Kashmir diplomacy. Much of it, of course, we don't hear about because this is the domain of back channel diplomacy with the United Nations, with the P5 permanent 5 members of the Security Council. This is very important. Of course, we are very grateful. Let's remember, Omer, we are very, very grateful to the United Nations, to the UN Security Council for their emergency meeting after 50 years on Kashmir. We are very grateful for UN Human Rights Council for ending its silence on Kashmir, and last year and this year they issued 2 major reports on Kashmir detailing in great detail, in amazing detail, the major human rights abuses and violations by the Indian military and Indian government in Kashmir. So we're very grateful to the UN. At the same time, Prime Minister Imran Khan basically is telling the UN, if you do not move, what you're doing is great, we're grateful, but if you do not move further now, we could face the possibility of a nuclear war, because Pakistan is not going to back down. If anybody thinks that Pakistan will back down and will allow India to go on with what it's doing in Kashmir, this will not happen. So Prime Minister Imran Khan is basically telling the UN that it's great what you guys are doing. Our Foreign Office, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our diplomats have an permanent mission at the UN, has conveyed these points to the Secretary General. We are thankful for what you're doing. We are thankful for the UN resolutions. But this is the time to resolve it. If you don't do this, we might have a nuclear war here, because Pakistan will not step back or get aside and let India do whatever it's doing. So it's a great message of trying to convince the international community to really move in. And I'm really very glad as a journalist, as a Kashmir human rights activist as well, and we're working with Kashmiri groups, we're working even with Indian civil society who is under tremendous pressure, and they're threatened by Indian extremists and fascists. But and of course, the worldwide, we have human rights organizations. We're very glad to see an international engagement now, real engagement for the first time, where Kashmir is being raised at the G7 summit. Kashmir is being raised at the UN Security Council. Kashmir is very much there at the UN Human Rights Council, and we have a session coming up next month at the in UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. So this is really a great moment, and of course we see the international media completely involved right now in Kashmir. It's really a good moment where we see India on a back foot, tables turned. They're trying to level best to convince the world, no, we will resolve this matter with Pakistan, but the world is not willing to listen, and Pakistan is continuing to remind the world, do not listen to the Indians when they tell you that we will resolve this bilaterally, because they will not, they will delay it, and we might have a major war on our hands, and it could turn into a nuclear war. So this is a huge international Kashmir diplomacy underway right now, and I think we need to promote it and focus on it.
All right. Also, one thing that our Prime Minister talked about is the power of the people, directly or indirectly. He asked the people of Pakistan to stand united as far as the Kashmir issue is concerned, that there needs to be an event held every week. He talked about an event that's going to happen this coming Friday between noon and 12:30 in the afternoon, where he asked people from all strata of the society to come together and stand in unison with the people of the Indian occupied Kashmir. And he said, we will continue to hold such weekly events. Also, you see what has been happening around the world, where different people are holding protests outside the Indian High Commissions to highlight the atrocities that are being committed on the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. People power, how important is it to highlight and to address important issues such as that of Indian occupied Kashmir?
Yes, this is a tremendous message by the Prime Minister. I think the Pakistani nation being, of course, the first line of defense for the Kashmiris, and we are call ourselves, we are the advocates, we are the lawyers for the Indian occupied Kashmir, for the people in Indian occupied Kashmir in front of the world. We need to be united, and I think Pakistanis should remember they should avoid any calls or any arguments being made against Pakistan's involvement in this international Kashmir diplomacy. And I specifically, Omer, would like to point out that Pakistanis really should not give too much credence or too much importance to people who say, oh, well, India is a huge market and the world will not listen to us. And this is what the Prime Minister also alluded to, that some people are saying that, nobody is talking about Kashmir, or major countries maybe are not issuing statements. We should not care. We should not pay attention to these things. A lot of people are trying to sort of demoralize people in Indian-occupied Kashmir and also demoralize Pakistanis by saying, well, India is a huge market, nobody will listen to you, or maybe Modi is going to one or two countries and he's getting an award, and that's it, and we've really lost and India has won. This is not the truth. It doesn't matter where Prime Minister Modi goes. India is under tremendous international pressure. We need to seize this moment. That's what the Prime Minister is doing. And the people are coming out. We need to really salute, Omer, the people of Indian-occupied Kashmir since the past 3 years after the extrajudicial killing and execution and shahadat of Burhan Wani. The rejuvenation of the Kashmiri freedom struggle. The Kashmiris, of course, came out on the streets, and now the Pakistanis, and now the world, as you've just referred to, people coming out in all of the Kashmir diaspora and the Pakistani diaspora everywhere, specifically in the West. So this is a great moment, and we're really happy because of these people coming out. We're seeing human rights defenders and people who are concerned on humanitarian grounds with what's happening inside Indian-occupied Kashmir. We're seeing people in different countries really coming out from different nationalities. It's no longer about Kashmiris or Pakistanis. And I'm really very happy. I need to tell you this, Omer, as well. There are many in India as well who would like to come out, but they're facing this Hindutva fascism, the extremism, and the Nazism from the Indian government, where they're trying to suppress voices also inside India.
Mufti, let's talk about those leaders who are, under house arrest as well, who are those leaders of the Hurriyat who are in jail as well as we speak. They are not allowed to talk. They are not allowed to hold any kind of a protest or even...
Yes, Omer, Indian-occupied Kashmir is now producing not one. Indian-occupied Kashmir is producing now several Nelson Mandelas. These are the people, and you'll be really very happy, and I'm really very glad to say this and report and get a chance to say this, that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, one of the key demands that he's facing wherever he goes, recently you must have followed over the last 2 or 3 days, he's been traveling, and everywhere he went, he actually faced this key demand to release the Kashmiri political leaders who have been jailed en masse. And I'm sure you've gone through the very, very excellent and interesting report published by the New York Times just 2 or 3 days ago, where the New York Times actually detailed how the political arrests in Indian-occupied Kashmir by the Indian government and Indian military are the worst the world has seen. The massive and thousands of political arrests, of course, including the Kashmiri leaders. So in G7 at the UN Security Council and wherever Prime Minister Modi went in the last 48 hours, some of the countries, of course, did not embarrass him publicly, but privately, everywhere he went. And of course, I'm sure you know the State Department of the U.S. government as well has released an official statement asking India to immediately release the Kashmiri political leaders. So this is an example of the types of pressures that the government of India is facing with it, because nobody will accept you arresting peaceful politicians who are demanding peacefully their rights. You cannot make no more. Indian government can no longer make the excuse of cross-border so-called alleged terrorism and that these people are involved in terrorism. India is on the back foot. We need to clearly understand that.
All right. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Ahmed Qureshi joining us, talking about his, of course, point of view on the arrest of Prime Minister Imran Khan and, of course, the atrocities that are being committed on the people of Indian-occupied Kashmir. Rana Saab, pressure on India, whether it is for the leaders who are detained in houses, in jails, for the atrocities on the people, by the media, by the governments. How, A, important is it? B, how much of an impact does it have?
Yeah, first of all, I think the political leaders are actually, of course, they were arrested second in line. The first were arrested the All-Party Hurriyat Conference, and I think Mr. Ali Gilani, the head of the Hurriyat, he actually, on 23rd of August, there was a tweet relating to him and his name and his official tweet handler, referred that to address the people that please whenever you are released, whenever you have a chance, make a very peaceful protest, because Indian security forces have designed all of this to entrap you so in order to kill you and terminate you or injure you or destroy your property. So do not fall in the trap. Do not retaliate. Keep protesting every day, but peacefully, in order to ensure that your strength remains. Because what India has done in the past 5 to 7 years, they have assassinated the second tier, third tier of leadership, the youth leadership. And their design relates to exactly we were referring.
You know, they wanted to do that, but look how the martyrdom of Burhan Wani
has multiplied.
Yes.
Actually. There are now several Burhan Wanis, as we refer to. So I think it is very important for us to understand that these Hurriyat leaders, despite of all difficulties, they have been in years after years, Yasin Malik, Ali Gilani, Mir Wais Umar Farooq, and there are many, many others, those who have been house arrested. And so it means that the situation has turned against India. The second level of intense pressure has come from the ordinary political leadership. The political leadership which was actually on the Indian side, even they were arrested. Now they have also turned against them. In their statements, they are referring that you cannot house arrest us. That's why a New York Times report referred to this one, that they should release it. But I would go a bit further on that, because this angle has come because of there is no assembly exist anymore. There is a directly ruled from Delhi. That means that there are issues relating to these leaders, although they are linked with what is happening on the ground, but they are linked from another angle. The actual angle which is linked is the youth and all those 8 million, and we should look into the Hurriyat leadership, those who have been years after years, and those youth like Burhan Wani and like many others who were protesting. And the third issue, which is really important, we must understand that the bureaucracy of Kashmir, the police, the doctors, all those also has been absolutely neutralized. And that means they have completely destroyed two structures. A, the government structures there. B, the social structures, a political structure. The three structure, they have destroyed it. Practically, they have leveled everything which was built decades ago. So whenever there is a chance to these people to be liberated, everybody should consider looking at what happened to that infrastructure on the ground. What happened to the machinery? Prior to 5th of August, they have called back all deputy commissioners and everybody in order to impose that rule, the curfew and the military rule. This means that we have a case also legally, to be honest. I think there was, last week, there was a discussion that Pakistan should also go to International Court of Justice in order to further internationalize that, since the UN Security Council resolution, under that, it's a disputed territory and its decision is waiting in UNSC, it is not possible for a country to go on and declare and then implement their design, which is even not the political parties in there. The opposition party, they were not consulted. Beyond that, this action cannot be taken without the without the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, the Legislative Assembly, which doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist.
And also there was no consent to the people of Kashmir, which enshrined in the UN Security Council resolution. So these three technical points are important, and I think Pakistan, I would say, because there are a lot of emotions involved, and my intake normally under these circumstances are that we use it very wisely this time to legally expose India and also make sure that we contextualize a persistent imposition of terror from the Indian state. And this is the pure state-sponsored terrorism. There has been said many times before. But this example is exactly the matches with the example of Hitler. When he decided, he did exactly that.
Napoleon before him as well.
He turned, yes, Napoleon as well, and he turned their homes into concentration camp, and then he built separate chambers. We do not know what is happening. We have reports that more than 4,000 youngsters were, in the early weeks, were transported to Agra and other jails, and in Banaras or in Tihar jail.
Because the jails are full to their capacity.
Yeah, we do not know that, but that's what I'm saying, that these are to building chambers to terminate all these young, innocent Kashmiri youngsters. And also there are reports of the mass rapes. There are reports of taking out the girls and entering into the houses. And the reason being, it's a blackout. One report or small information comes to India, and it takes a lot of time to reach to the other sources. You can imagine we have not read a real comprehensive report from any Kashmiri-based journalist or a newspaper.
Because of the ban that is there.
That's what I'm saying. It's a complete blackout. So I think we should take three-pronged strategy. One is the legal strategy. The second is very much popularizing and based on the issue of Kashmir, the victims, 8 million people, those who are being taken hostage by Indian military illegally. And then we should highlight unlawful annexation and what will happen. Their defense minister, he has commented very, I would say, irrationally, and in terms of that no first use, he was trying to implicitly say that, but one India should remember that when they said this and when they tried it on 25th, 6th February, they were responded exactly very soon after. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but I was on a program a day before that.
All right.
And I said on your program, on this PTV Word, that India may not have to wait long for a response from Pakistan.
I remember that.
And I would say that we respond, that's what I'm saying, that we will respond with wisdom, with rationality, according to international law, because we understand what wars have done in this region and what Second World War has done to the entire world.
Exactly.
We do not want war, but war is imposed, be it a conventional, sub-conventional, nuclear. It will be retaliated because we have no option left actually. Our options have been, we are running out of option. Yes, if international community, United Nations intervenes today, tomorrow, day after, say, yes, we will bring this on UNSC, let's debate it, let's find a solution. Absolutely, Pakistan is for it. Pakistan is for all kind of resolutions, peaceful resolution.
Okay.
But it would be impossible for Pakistan to stay idle if India preempts.
Of course, as
any
happened
kind
after
of
post the
adventure.
Pulwama incident.
That's what I'm saying, yes. And all those subtlety and everything, I think the towels are thrown away. It's enough is enough, as we say.
I completely agree with you, Rana Ather Javed Sahab. Now, there's one thing that you talked about. You talked about contextualizing the state of terror and to respond with wisdom and sagacity. And the people, at the end of the day, it is the people who suffer the most. The people of Indian occupied Kashmir that are suffering.
Absolutely.
And in case of a war, who will suffer? Also the people of India are going to suffer as a
for
consequence
Pakistan
of
as well,
that.
yes.
In Pakistan as well. But there is a reaction not only from the people, you talked about the political parties, sane elements, but even within the army, you see a kind of a reaction by the suicides that are happening in the Indian army. We hear time and again of the Indian army soldiers who kill themselves because of the depression that they go into, because of the current state that the Indian government have put them in Indian occupied Kashmir.
No, there is a slim minority exists within the Indian army, those who are performing their duties in IOK, Indian occupied Kashmir, respecting to the those, because the India very technically orchestrated that they will push Dalits, Sikhs and others in the front and in the areas. So if they are being confronted or something happens to them, so be it. The Sikhs and other, there are reports, some of them very credible reports, that they have also refused or they try to change their duties, or this suicidal thing is very normal, Omer. It is impossible even for a professional soldier to go and kill their own people unless and until they are really anti-state. These innocent people have done nothing. You know, one evening, everything changed for them. For all these years, 72 years, not be before that, even before, during the rule of, you know, in 1931, and before that, Kashmiris have been giving their life for the freedom. And it is very strong belief, even in international law, that if this continues for a long time, despite the suffering, they will get what they want. So I would say that this trend, suicidal trend within the Indian Army, has been very much reported. And it is because of the psychological pressures they are under in, because they are obeying some orders which are not professionally recognized by their oath. Because professionally they are not being told to kill their own people and, you know, go and do this and that. And there are also reports that in the garb of Indian Army, the RSS, these
hardliners are being trained as well,
and Moody's lieutenants, they are being injected into the system, and there are retired, you know, those military and others people, those who were serving, now part of the BJP government and had been in the election campaign. They are basically instigating violence. I mean, there are reports and videos which were saying that give us the Kashmir for some time and we will transform this, change this to that. So the morality is under siege. The diplomacy is under siege. And that's why the Kashmiris are under siege. Once this siege is lifted, you would see that those innocent, unarmed civilians, the Kashmiris, they will react. They will react because it is impossible.
Exactly.
It's been
I mean,
so
how
many,
long,
how
Ather, how long will the curfew continue? I mean, for how long can they continue to suppress the people inside their houses?
And in order for Pakistan to, you know, to really further internationalize it, we must have this our narrative that Indian, you know, occupying not only Kashmiris, but entire world's morality and diplomacy is at stake as well, their credibility. Because we will see it. That how they react now. Look, we have seen in South Sudan, we have seen in East Timor, we have seen in many other conflict places. In Bosnia, United States of America was supporting Bosnians against Serbs and others, against even Croats. So that means that when there is something happens around their region, they are ready to do it. This cannot continue in the modern world. In the modern world, the communication, look at the people's reaction in around the world. I have seen the Danish community, the Norwegian, the British. All these are not Pakistanis, Indians and Kashmiris. They're natives. And they were really standing against Indian occupation in protest, in I would say solidarity with the Kashmiri people. So we should continue our, you know, this intense, I would say, a campaign. I will not say we are not, because we are very peaceful and people are understanding that that's why we are saying rationally and through the wisdom.
Exactly. Rationality and wisdom and sagacity, Rana Ather Javed Saab, is the need of the hour. This is what Pakistan is displaying, but this is not what India is displaying. You were talking about morality and credibility. Let's talk about the RSS philosophy and ideology that our Prime Minister also highlighted in this address to the nation. 1925. The RSS is not very old. Well, it is a couple of decades older than the BJP, but it is not a very, very old organization. But despite that, it has demoralized the people of an entire country into believing that by abrogating the rights of minorities of a country, you can achieve what they call Hindu superiority or the Hindutva complex. Doesn't it be also the right and the responsibility of international organizations to address this philosophy and ideology of the RSS?
Actually, I would say absolutely yes. And by sheer action of this, what has happened, the tragedy which is committed by Prime Minister Modi's government, actually this has happened already. You would see from now on, their RSS will be clubbed in with Nazis. They will be clubbed in with, you know, Hindu supremacists and white supremacists, those who have been committing crimes throughout history, hundreds of years.
But you know, they are Hitler and Mussolini are the ideals of the RSS.
And of course, we said about the Napoleon, we said the Mussolini, and we said the Hitler. And Hitler actually, this, we were referring to resonating because there were crimes committed also against humanity by the states, that turning down the ships of those refugees, of the Jewish refugees, that still have bar on their minds, and their, the Holocaust is being taught in the in curricula in European countries. And if you deny that, you will be imprisoned. So I think based on that civilized way of understanding the ethnic cleansing, and it's my strong belief that the West would come to light, and there are groups within the countries and networks which are really interested to see this kind of mentality go away. And our responsibility should be that we should expose RSS in terms of loss of a so-called secular India. Because it is
no longer secular now, since what it is
the loss of, look what they have done to the Muslims in India as well. So it is the responsibility, Muslims in India and all those other states. Well, there is one point which we should also mention, which came out during the discussion when, this Amit Shah was speaking in his address, and I think it was a congressman from this Congress party. He stood up and he said that's exactly, that this will give this BJP, this Hindutva government, a sort of pretext to undo other states' status. And they may then try to, bifurcate or trifurcate those states. We should